Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Dharam Jeevam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Nashtaprayeshu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 9. And the text for today is text 35. Mataji, would you like to read the text? 36, sorry. 36. Yes. We did 35 yesterday. Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.30 says, Vyavahita prittanamukam nirikshaya sva janabadhat vimukhasya dosha buddhaya kumatim maharad atma vidyaya yash charanaratihi paramasya tasya me astu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for reading the text so well. Usually I don't know the meter of this one, but with you today, I have now understood the meter. Mataji, can you read one line and I can repeat after you so that I learn the meter?
Yes, Mataji. But even I am not here, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Vyavahita, standing at a distance.
Mataji, if you can, because there are no more devotees and we are waiting for Mataji to join. So I want to use this time so that I learn how to sing. So if you can sing the first line, then I can repeat after you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vyavahita prithanamukam nirikshaya.
Vyavahita prithanam mukham nirikshya.
Svajanavadhat vimukhasya dosha buddhya.
Svajanavadhat vimukshaya dosha buddhya.
Kumatim haharad atma vidyaya yash.
Kumatim aharatya atma vidyayas.
Charanaratihi paramasya tasya me astu.
Charanarati paramayasya tasya mestu. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Are you Govind Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhuji, as we are waiting for Mataji to join, would you like to read the text?
Okay, Mataji.
We are on Canto 1, Chapter 9, and the text for today is text 36.
So shall I read the word to word or the text, Mataji?
Prabhuji, if you can read the text and then word to word so that we even hear the meter, because this is a different meter than the usual.
Oh, yeah, I'm also not. Okay, let me try, Mataji.
Otherwise, we can just go to word if you are
yeah,
not
I think let's go to word, Mataji. It's a difficult meter. Yeah.
Okay.
Shall I start the word to word?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Vyavahita.
Vyavahita.
Standing at a distance.
Standing at a distance.
Pritana.
Pritana.
Soldiers.
Soldiers.
Mukham.
Mukham.
Faces.
Faces.
Nirikshya.
Nirikshya.
By looking upon.
By looking upon.
Swajana.
Swajana.
Kinsman.
Kingsman.
Vadhat.
Vadhat.
From the act of killing.
From the act of killing.
Vimukhasya.
Kashya,
one who is reluctant,
one who's reluctant,
dosha buddhya,
dosha buddhya,
by polluted intelligence,
by polluted intelligence,
kumatim,
kumatim,
poor fund of knowledge,
poor
aharat,
aharat,
eradicated,
eradicated,
atma vidyaya,
atma vidyaya,
by transcendental knowledge,
by transcendental knowledge,
ya,
ya,
he who,
he who,
charana,
charana,
to the feet,
to the feet,
rati,
rati,
attraction,
attraction,
paramasya,
paramasya,
of the supreme,
of the supreme,
tasya,
tasya,
for him,
for him,
may, my,
my,
astu,
astu,
let there be.
let there be.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I think Mataji has still not joined us, so we can probably go on to the translation and purport. Would anybody like to read the translation and purport? Okay, I can read the translation and purport. Kindly alert me when Mataji joins. Hare Krishna. By Shwari, observing the soldiers and commanders before him on the battlefield, the Lord eradicated his ignorance by delivering transcendental knowledge. May his lotus feet always remain my attraction. Krishna. We now go on to the purport. The king and the commanders were to stand in front of the fighting soldiers. That was the system of actual fighting. The kings and the commanders were not so-called presidents or ministers of defense as they are today. They would not stay at home while the poor soldiers or mercenaries were fighting face to face. They may be the regulations of modern democracy, but when actual monarchy was prevailing, the monarchs were not cowards elected without consideration of qualification. As it was evident from the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all the executive heads of both parties, like Drona, Bhishma, Arjuna, and Duryodhan, were not sleeping. All of them were actual participants in the fighting, which was selected to be executed at the place away from the civil residential quarters. This means that the innocent citizens were immune from all effects of fighting between the rival royal parties. The citizens had no business in seeing what was going to happen during such fighting. They were to pay 1/4 of their income to the ruler, whether he be Arjuna or Duryodhan. All the commanders of the parties on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were standing face to face, and Arjuna saw them with great compassion and lamented that he was to kill his kinsmen on the battlefield for the sake of the empire. He was not at all afraid of the giant military phalanx presented by Duryodhan, but as a merciful devotee of the Lord, renunciation of worldly things was natural for him, and thus he decided not to fight for worldly possessions. But this was due to a poor fund of knowledge, and therefore it is said here that his intelligence became polluted. His intelligence could not be polluted at any time because he was a devotee and constant companion of the Lord, as it is clear in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Apparently, Arjun's intelligence became polluted because otherwise there would have been a chance to deliver the teachings of Bhagavad Gita for the good of all polluted conditional souls engaged in material bondage by the conception of the false material body. The Bhagavad Gita was delivered to the conditioned souls of the world to deliver them from wrong conception of identifying the body with the soul and to re-establish the soul's eternal relation with the Supreme Lord. Atma Vidya, or transcendental knowledge of himself, was primarily spoken by the Lord for the benefit of all concerned in all parts of the universe. Hare Krishna. Mataji has still not joined, yeah? Lakshmi Mataji, is it possible for you to call up Mataji and ask if she's going to join in? She's just joined.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. Please accept humble obeisances, Mataji.
So sorry, Mataji.
Yes,
Our
sir.
relatives have come, and
Everybody in this group.
so sorry, Mataji. I had to join late. Relatives have come, and extremely sorry to make you wait. Since I was serving breakfast, I couldn't. I didn't even take my phone. Sorry, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Is my
No
voice
problem.
clear? Is my voice okay?
Yes, yes. How are you feeling? Are you
I'm okay.
now?
I'm okay, Mataji. My voice is a little, I don't know, rough. Probably you'll have to bear with it. Hope it's clear though.
It is clear. It is very clear, Mataji.
Okay. Okay.
So, Mataji,
We can.
as you were we have read we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 9, and the text for today is text 36. So we have just read the purport and translation and purport, Mataji. We hand over to you now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschalya Desha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayane Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namni Kauratushe Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayanam Namaskrityam, Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udire, Shrunvata Swagata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayanta Stohi, Abhadrani Vidunuti Suhritsatam, Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Seviya, Bhagavati Uttama Sloke, Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. All right. Today I have a very, very interesting topic to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to learning from it as well, like all of you. So let's get started without any further ado. In the purport, I'm just going to go really quick to the purport, and I'm going to make you all understand the theme that we're talking about, and then we can get started. Next week, I'll do the recap of the sequence of verses because I've shifted my room. The relatives are staying in my room, so I don't have the book in front of me. Anyways, coming back to this purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So what is he trying to tell through this purport? He is trying to tell us that Arjuna, it is for us that we get instructions through the Bhagavad Gita. That is why Arjuna is playing that role as if he is ignorant, but he is not ignorant. And he was not at all afraid of the giant military plans presented by Duryodhana, but as a merciful devotee of Lord, renunciation of worldly things was natural for him, and thus he decided not to fight for worldly possessions. But this was due to the poor fund of knowledge, and therefore it is said the intelligence has become polluted. His intelligence could not be polluted at any time because he was a devotee and a constant companion of the Lord. And apparently Arjuna's intelligence became polluted because otherwise there wouldn't have been a chance to deliver the teachings of Bhagavad Gita for the poor conditioned souls who are engaged in the material bondage by the conception of false material body. So it's a very, very important thing that Srila Prabhupada is bringing about. What is that? So he's giving us this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and other Shastras, which are very, very necessary for the conditioned beings. And Arjuna is given a role to play here, and he's acting in ignorance as if he's ignorant. He's not. He's a Nityasiddha devotee, but playing the role for our sake, for us to learn a lesson. All right. So that is very important. And so through this, I want to actually take a theme. The theme is to understand Shastras. How are we to understand Shastras? Why it is important for us to understand Shastras? So this is the theme for today's lesson, dear devotees. I thought this is very important because each and everything that we hear, how are we supposed to assimilate that information? How are we supposed to implement that information? This is the theme for today. So I'm really looking forward to discussing that with you. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have. And let's get started with the topic. So if somebody were to understand the Shastras, what is important? It is important to listen, right? It is important. Shravanam is the first thing that we have to do. And it is, Shravanam means Kirtanam, and Kirtanam means Smaranam, like they follow along. When we talk about Smaranam, we mean we need to first listen, and then we repeat, and then we remember. This is Smaranam. Sorry, this is Shravanam. So Shravanam means what we do, we listen, we repeat what we have heard, and then we try to recollect. This is Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam. These are the three kinds of stages into Shravanam. Okay, problem. I'm so sorry, Mataji. 1 second, let me close the door because I think you are entering into this thing. Hare Krishna. Anyway, so so there are three things that we need to do. What we do? First, we listen, we then repeat, and then we remember. So these three things go into the Shravanam. First, as I told you, it is very important for us to listen and repeat that correctly. Because in a spiritual teaching, we have to pass the words of the Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada. So it is important for us to repeat their words. Let's be a parrot. What I'm doing is, I'm just trying to be a parrot. We just have to be a parrot. There is nothing we need to invent on our own. The speakers are supposed to repeat the words of Srila Prabhupada and our Acharyas. This is what the preachers need to do. And in a similar way, after you have heard, you can also repeat. And then what we do after repetition, we try to remember. Okay, so the Vedic culture, if you look at it, it has developed a whole system of how to listen correctly and how to repeat correctly and how to memorize correctly. This is something called a recitation system. And what is interesting is we use this word swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means the study of scriptures. And what does it mean? It means repetition after a spiritual master. Like how the frog, they croak, they repeat the songs. The students also repeat what the spiritual master talks. This is Shravanam, my dear devotees. And then now, what happens behind the Shravanam? What is the next stage? Mananam. Mananam means reflection, right? Mananam is reflection. What is this Mananam? What are we supposed to do? The first stage, as I told you, is Shravanam. And that will lead to remembrance of the Lord because we are repeating that information. And then we are saying Mananam, right? And again, in order for the change in the heart see, what are we ultimately looking for? We are ultimately looking for us to change, to have some change in the heart. Transformation has to occur in our heart. For that, it is important we do that first three things. Hear, repeat, and remember. And the next is Mananam, as I told you. And Mananam means comprehension. We have to think about what we have heard. In the Rig Veda, it says there is an analogy that is being quoted. What happens is the during the rainy season, what happens? The frogs croak, 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 and the rain will pass. After that, they will become silent. So the second stage is mananam, which means comprehension. That is silent assimilation of what is being heard. This is very important, dear devotees. So we do, as I told you, please, I'm repeating these things so that we all remember this over and over. So the first is Shravanam. Shravanam means, what did I tell you? We listen, we repeat, and then we remember. That Shravanam includes Kirtanam and Smaranam. And then Mananam. Mananam means comprehension. That is silent assimilation of what we have heard. It is not enough just to hear and croak. The frogs, they just hear and croak. It's not enough. We need to think further about what we have heard. And then, after thinking about what we have heard, we need to fall silent. And that silent stage is Mananam. That is comprehension stage. Silent assimilation of what we have heard. Okay? So these are the these are the two topics that we have spoken about, which is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, and then we talked about comprehension, which is Mananam. Really sorry, dear devotees. Again, somebody is knocking the door.
Hare Krishna. Do we have a new devotee who has joined us? Himam? Is that Himanshu Pai?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining in. We would like you to welcome you to this group.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining. It is at the same time every day, and we have different speakers every day. So thank you very much for joining in. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So now, after Mananam, what is the next stage? What are we supposed to do? So we all know the corresponding function of intelligence and the functions of the mind. There is something called Vichar Shakti. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we often use this word Vichar. What does this mean? First, a person must hear all this properly. After that, he must think about everything properly. So there is an interesting essay by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says there are two mistakes in reading scriptures. That is, he characterizes two types of people who makes mistakes, who read the scriptures. The first one he calls them as sterile reader. The second one he calls them as a superficial critic. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if the thought of what we have heard does not have a continuation or does not introduce a change in us, that reading will be fruitless. And as a result, such a fruitless reading is called, that person, what it leads to is he's a barren reader, and it leads to detachment in his heart. Because it doesn't produce a change in him. He reads. It is performed as a ritual. So what is the use of it? Nothing. So the reading will be fruitless, and the result of this is going to lead to detachment. So when we read something, we just look to, we have to take a look at it. If we take a look at it without any critical thought, then what it leads to is Sahajiya mentality. Okay, we see things from outside and we try to imitate it. And what is that? That is Sahajiyas. That is what Sahajiyas do. They take everything cheaply and make it so incomprehensible. And this is not going to give you transformation. It's going to, because at the end of the day, what is this Krishna Katha going to do to us? It has to introduce transformation in our hearts. If it does not introduce transformation in our hearts, then what's the point, isn't it? I will tell you what is happening. So now we talked about the human transformation. That is very important. That is the change that we are looking in the heart. So if the person hears, and if there is going to be a block between the first level, that is Shravanam. Shravanam, we talked about Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam. If there is going to be a block between the first stage and the second stage, what is second stage? That is Mananam. If there is going to be a block between these two stages, then there is going to be no transformation. He heard, he even remembered, he even repeated it, and he will even preach it. But if there is that block between the first and the second stage, then it is going to lead to Sahajism. So it's very important, dear devotees, how to comprehend this information. This mananam is also very, very important. Silently just comprehending what we have understood, right? That silent time is important. Even I, if you look at me, I also hear a lot, but am I following this process? That is why I am taking this class, so that I follow through the steps. I follow what is being taught by our acharyas. This is very important, dear devotees. So it's definitely a learning for me as well. Now, coming back to the point, I'm going to quote a very, very interesting example, which is quoted by His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. He said, this example really stuck to my heart, and I wanted to share it with you. Bhurijan Prabhu, he is a pioneer of Bhakti Shastras and so many courses, right? He's taken many, many courses, and you must, Maharaj says, you must look at his Bhagavad Gita. If you look at his Bhagavad Gita, he says it's 2 or 2.5 times thicker, because there is every page he feels that his own copy of Bhagavad Gita is thicker because it has been touched and read a multiple number of times. It has been read from bottom up, top down, diagonally, across the pages. There are bookmarks and there are links to the bookmarks. Everything is written down. And Maharaj says, this is what is mananam. Mananam means just comprehending it to the level as much as you can. Oh, going top up, bottom down, each and every word is scrutinizingly analyzed and understood. So this is manifested, this is seen in the book. We can see it from his book. He says, if I'm reading a book of Srila Prabhupada, if just I'm reading a sentence of Srila Prabhupada's book, I don't move to the next sentence until I completely understood the meaning of that sentence. Until I have fully comprehended whatever it says, I have thought about it, I have focused, I am not moving to the next sentence. This is what it says. This is what he says. How to approach the scriptures. This is the level of mananam that he does. Can you all understand how much of learning we can get from this just one example of Sri Bhurijan Prabhu? What does he do? As I told you, mananam means looking at the book and understanding each and every sentence in a very thorough manner. You are not going to move into the next sentence without understanding the previous sentence. It's not about us completing the book. It is about understanding each and every point which is being discussed. So until he has fully comprehended what it says, he doesn't move on to the next sentence. I thought this was a very interesting point that Maharaj brought about to our attention. And it definitely stuck to my heart, dear devotees. Now, so we have spoken about, what did we speak about? We spoke about Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, which is then leading to Mananam. And we discussed about Mananam, how we have to comprehend the information, how we have to silently look at each and every sentence of Srila Prabhupada's books and carefully understand and examine. This is the second stage. And if there is going to be a block between the first and the second stage, then it is going to lead to what is called Sahajism, where we don't understand exactly what is intended what is intended of our Acharya Prabhupada for us to understand and decipher. If we don't perceive the information correctly, then it leads to Sahajism, which ultimately leads to what is called detachment. All right. Now, coming back to the third stage. A person, what is this? The third stage is Nididhyasanam, right? The fruit of Mananam actually happens here in the third stage. And this third stage is called Nididhyasanam. Okay? And Nididhyasanam means continuous meditation, deep meditation. A deep meditation. When this is happening, the reflection is moved into some deeper stage. In other words, the information, please listen carefully, dear devotees. This point I thought was very interesting, very important. So what happens is that The information enters the ear and then it passes to the mind. And from the mind, it actually goes and passes to the heart. This is the third stage. So what has to happen is, it's not at this level where we hear, okay, but goes to the mind, okay. So because mind is the seat of emotions, dear devotees, the function of the mind is, it has its emotions. Emotions are all stored in the mind. And when the information from the mind reaches the heart, then the transformation happens. Are you able to understand how this works? Because each and everything that we discuss in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, everything has to be assimilated the right way. And that is why I thought this was important for us to understand how the transformation in the heart can happen. Okay, so now Nididhyasanam is what we begin to hear through the ear, and that hearing actually penetrates where? To the heart, and begins to work at the level of the heart. It is at this stage the anarthas become eliminated. So beginning, we may just know everything theoretically. We may know who Krishna is theoretically. We may know Krishna can be attained through bhakti theoretically. But until it passes from the ear to the mind to the heart, anarthas are not going to be eliminated, dear devotees. And the goal of the study, of this study process, of studying of the scriptures, is the Nididhyasanam. If that is not achieved, then the goal is not achieved. So what happens? What is this constant meditation means? At this stage, what happens is the vision of the person changes. The person begins to see the world differently. A person begins to see his own soul, the super soul. So this is the person, then, he has this Shastra Shakshu vision. We say, right? Shastra Shakshu. He has a different set of lens with which he looks at this world. So the gradual process happens in the steps of bhakti. It begins with Shravanam. So one must listen to the stories of Krishna and constantly serve Srimad Bhagavatam and the devotee Bhagavata. And gradually what will happen is that it would lead to purification. And as a result of purification, what is going to happen is the heart is going to be transformed. So the first thing is, it all starts with the hearing process, dear devotees. We try to internalize the scriptures, but in the bottom, in the third stage, when our heart changes, then our vision changes. When our vision changes, it means we have a different set of lens with which we look at the world. Completely. We begin to see the world so differently. So this understanding is very, very important for us, because see, if we do blind reading, when we perceive something superficially, when we listen to scriptures, very often we are on the first level. We just read, our eyes glances through Srila Prabhupada's books. Our mind is somewhere else, somewhere enjoying, oh yeah, Hawaiian Islands. We don't know where this mind is roaming around. It is pointless to hear like that. No, the process of just thinking about the same thing is not enough. To think about it, okay, it's not enough, because the process actually matures and turns into something deeper. That is the process of seeing the world with a different set of eyes happens with Nididhyasanam. And before that, it is Mananam. So if we are not following through the sequence, and we say we are in this movement for so many years, nothing happened. No change. I'm still the same person. Why? Because, dear devotees, we have not followed through the steps in a sequential way. We have not understood what is this Shravanam, what is Kirtanam, what is Maranam, and then go to Mananam, comprehend the information, look at it in and out, understand each and every word and its sentence thoroughly, comprehend it. After that, do Nididhyasanam, right? When we do Nididhyasanam, that is the stage where the transformation in the heart happens. And when that transformation happens, you view it with a different set of lens. You can see it with your own eyes. I'm seeing the world completely differently. Somebody is doing some injustice to me, and if you're tolerant, What is it showing? You're indifferent. Your heart is transformed. This is what it shows. And that is transformation of heart. We cannot look at things superficially. We may spend hours superficial reading. It's not the quantity that matters. It's the quality that matters. This is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to teach us. The essence of Bhagavad Gita, why Arjuna is playing that role, is for us to change, isn't it? For us to transform our hearts, for us to have transformed hearts. And through this transformed heart, what we can do? We can do a lot. We can be the role models. We can preach. And I'm going to shortly talk about that as well. But anyways, hope you understood these points that I discussed till now. So, as I told you, our goal here is to go through these three of these processes and not just to hear something here and there and then think about it at later point. And then so the things has to be followed in sequence, dear devotees. We have to hear, we have to repeat, we have to remember, we have to do comprehension, manana, and then we have to do nididhyasanam, which is from the ear to the mind to the heart. This is nididhyasanam. So we have to learn how to do it. To see this world, we have to look at it with a different vision. And if we are able to look at it with the vision of the Shastras, then that is when the change has happened. So we can all evaluate ourselves. Are we looking at everything that is happening around us as per the Shastras? Then that means the change has happened. Anarthas are slowly going out now. But we can, now that we have known this fact, we can consciously try to implement it in our lives, right? It is not what you and I, it's just not about us. If we are able to do, we can transform the whole world with this particular phenomena that we are talking about. How we have to learn and read Shastras, how we have to assimilate the information, and how these three stages are passed through. If we try to do it together, even though it is a difficult task, since we are doing it together, it is not a big deal, right? We can all try to do it together. We can all try to put in our best possible efforts to achieve this goal of nididhyasanam. Now, I'm going to discuss a very important topic, which is the goals that have been proposed by the Ministry of Education, the goals of the systematic study of Shastras. The ISKCON ministry has put up 15 goals for the systematic study of Shastras. And I'm going to discuss one by one based on the time that we have. But dear devotees, this is directly coming from the Ministry of Education, and they have given us some goals. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to try to explain each goal so that in a lucid way, so everybody can understand. So the first goal, how can the knowledge of Shastras be put into practice, in particular, in personal life, in service to others, devotees, non-devotees, through teaching, preaching, and communication? So the first goal they are trying to talk about here is to teach people to understand and apply this knowledge in our lives. So the ministry, this ISKCON ministry, wants us not just to understand, but they want us to use this Shastric knowledge in our real life. This is the first thing we need to learn here. If we systematically study the Shastras, then we will be able to put something in practicality. This knowledge has to be real time. Okay, coming to the second point, second goal. The second goal, it says, to give students theoretical knowledge that will form the basis of their permanent stay in Krishna consciousness. This is a very important point we need to understand. So the ultimate goal, we need to understand what level we are at, right? And we all have a level that we are at, and we have to progress from that level. It is very, very important aspect. So let our knowledge be theoretical. Okay, no problem. But we need this Gyan so that from this Gyan, the Bhagavad Gyan that we have to progress further. To understand what level we are at is very important, but people often are mistaken. They don't understand. This knowledge is very theoretical, and the point that our ministry is trying to say is it has to become practical at some point later. So first we need to have theoretical knowledge of the Bhagavad Gyan, which is the foundation to understand where we are in the ladder of progress and where we have to go. We need to be judging ourselves constantly, dear devotees. We don't have to judge others. We are not meant to judge others. But what we keep doing is we keep judging others. And oh, see this guy, that happened because of him. This happened because of him. But our ISKCON goals are talking about our consciousness, where it is and where it is going. So we need to always have that understanding, not only theoretical understanding, but we have to, this theoretical understanding is the basis for the permanent stay in Krishna consciousness. How much you understand theoretically, that much your heart will be convinced. And when we are convinced to that extent, we can understand how much can we progress from that level. This is the second goal. Then the third one. The third one says, to deepen the understanding of the theology of Krishna consciousness through the study of philosophy from perspectives and through inner reflection. This is what we've been talking about, isn't it? Inner reflection. There we are just not mechanically reading. We are trying to make sense of different perspectives, looking at the same subject matter, right? We look at the different perspectives our acharyas are giving, and this will gradually deepen our understanding to the philosophy. Then we get deeper and deeper and deeper. It is interesting to definitely recall so many classical examples of how our acharyas have given and studied Bhagavad Gita, right? And here I would like to quote an analogy or an example. We all know about the story of Arjunacharya. Everybody knows the story about him. He's a great acharya and he's a devotee from Puri. What did he do? He sat and studied Bhagavad Gita. But how he studied Bhagavad Gita? He just took one verse and thought about it over and over and over. Just one word, he kept thinking on it. Ananyas Chintayantomam, right? So when it came to the word Vahamyaham, he thought about the word for 3 days. And then he crossed out. After that, Krishna himself came. I bring the devotee, I come myself to satisfy whatever the devotee lacks. He thought about this particular word for 3 days. There is no time. This is what is mananam. This mananam is very important, looks like. And I'm not also, so until I came across this particular explanation, even I want to follow it with all of you all. This mananam is very, very important to contemplate about the subject matter. That we take a moment to reflect about what we have learned. This is very important because we constantly keep hearing and we get all the information. It's all there. It's very good. Hearing is very, very good. But we also need to take some time to introspect. We need to take some time to reflect upon it, which is what the third goal is talking about, to go into the subject matter deeper. And then the fourth one, it says to develop the skills of devotees in analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of scriptures, especially in relation to their practical application. Basically, what it's saying is we must learn how to properly analyze and interpret scriptures, especially including the scriptures. When we learn how to apply them in a specific situation, right, then that is the ultimate thing. So we all know in what situation Krishna gave this information to Arjuna, but we need to apply such knowledge in thousands of opportunities that we are put into, different situations that our lives are going through. So what happens is, by the systematic study of Shastras, we be able to apply this knowledge in a specific situation. And this happens when we do that mananam that we talked about previously. Isn't it, dear devotees? So otherwise, that particular thing will not be, we'll not be able to apply that in our lives if we don't do that mananam. Anyways, coming to the fifth point. So the fourth point talked about specifically trying to apply it in practical life situation, trying to apply the systematic study of Shastras in the practical lives. The fifth point says to create conditions in which the devotee can develop an aesthetic and academic integrity in the approach of interpretation, evaluation, and practical application of knowledge of Shastras. Now, what this means is it's about trying to learn honestly to use the scriptures and not use the scriptures to justify our weakness. Instead, we try to use the scriptures to say, oh, these are the mistakes I have made, and this is what I need to change or reform myself. This is a very important point. Okay, so we need to use the scriptures, the systematic study of Shastras, not to justify our mistakes, but to correct our mistakes. Very important. Actually use it to correct our mistakes. This is the fifth goal that they are trying to talk about. The sixth goal is to cultivate in devotees the undivided trust of spiritual authority of the Shastras. At the same time, to cultivate in them the spirit of open biased attitude towards Vedic knowledge, as well as to develop in them the desire to understand and realize its essence. Now, here, what is being talked about is, we sometimes take Shastras blindly. What happens if we are taking the Shastras blindly is, we are afraid to realize that we don't believe in something. Okay, say for example, Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill and he held it in his little finger for 7 days. The devotees, they are not able to believe it at all. Some of them, which literally means they couldn't believe it, and because they didn't believe it, they're also afraid to admit about the fact that they don't believe in this thing. And so what is being talked about is, we must have an honest attitude of understanding it. If we don't believe in something, then it is being advised that we have to dispel the doubts. This is important with a Shastric study, dear devotees. As I've told in the previous classes, some topics needs devotional maturity. As we progress in our devotional life, we mature, and accordingly we be able to perceive that information. Even if we don't understand, maybe given a span of 3 or 4 months, we'd be able to understand. But at the same time, if you don't believe in something, you can't accept things blindly, because this doubt is there, it is there in your heart, it is not yet dispelled. So what happens is, it will bother, and this will hinder the faith. Okay, so it's important that we respect the Shastras, we respect the opinions, we accept them, but on the other hand, we have to make sure to clarify the doubts. We openly try to clarify, we admit ourselves and ask and clarify. See, say for example, I don't believe in Lord Chaitanya being the Lord. How can I believe it? I just don't. I cannot admit that. I can understand Krishna as God, but I cannot understand the fact the Lord Chaitanya is God. Can you help me understand how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord himself? I honestly admit the state where I'm in, and then I try to find an answer to the question that is tormenting me. This is very important, dear devotees, to do this. Very, very important to clarify the doubts that we have. However silly, nothing is silly actually. No doubts are silly. So we should just feel free and open the heart with the speaker to clarify the doubts that we have in the heart, so that those doubts are dispelled. Now, coming to the 7th goal, to give devotees the opportunity to appreciate the importance of Shastras in the study, and demonstrating the practical examples of their applicability in everyday life. Now, if you look at Hitopadesh, it begins with a statement to say that the greatest wealth, the best wealth is knowledge. Have you all wondered why the best wealth is knowledge? Anybody wants to give me a reasoning why knowledge is the best wealth? This may be interesting to contemplate about. If you have any thoughts, you can share it with me.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, I think the more you, it's the best wealth because the more you spend it, the more you get it.
Okay,
usually
wonderful.
when you spend your wealth, it diminishes, but knowledge, when you spend and share, it increases. So it is the best.
Wonderful. Okay, Lakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. because that is the wealth which cannot be like even the material wealth, it can be destroyed, but only the knowledge, nobody can steal it, nobody can destroy it, nobody can put fire on it. So that's
Wonderful, wonderful. Exactly. So both of you are right. The best wealth is that which cannot be stolen. All the other wealth, it can be stolen. A person has a lot of money. Somebody can come and get that money from that person's house. But if you have knowledge, nobody can steal it from you. So that is the best wealth. It has no value. It is priceless and it is indestructible. So very well said. This is the point. So Shastric study is important because this is the best knowledge, best wealth that cannot be stolen. It is priceless and indestructible. That is the reason we have to go for Shastric study. Then, now the seventh point, again, there's a subdivision to it. And the second point of seventh goal is increase the desire to read Srila Prabhupada's books, to help develop habits of studying scriptures, and to assist in acquiring positive personal experiences and a sense of progress in Krishna consciousness. So it's very important for us to instill the skill of reading Srila Prabhupada's books, not just reading Srila Prabhupada's books. The books are revealed to us. We understand so that we understand how profound and interesting these books are. The books will be revealed to us through the Shastric study. What happens is the knowledge descends down. A lot of people read but do not understand. That is why we need to get the mercy. This Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. And what mood? We have to, as I told you, what was Sutta Goswami's mood? Sutta Goswami wanted Sukadev Goswami to enter into his heart and speak Srimad Bhagavatam, and wanted to speak Srimad Bhagavatam through Sukadev Goswami's mercy. So this is what a preacher does. It is not about, he is not the doer. It is the blessings that is descending down, because of which a preacher is able to preach the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And similar way, if some realizations happen to us, it is the mercy that is descending down, dear devotees. So this is what Shastric study can do to us. Then what else can it go? What else are the benefits? It gives devotees faith. It gives, the eighth goal is, it gives devotees faith in the process of Krishna consciousness. In the Shastra, it gives faith in the Shastra, and this is the basis for Krishna consciousness. Because if we don't have the knowledge, we cannot maintain the level of enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. It becomes boring, and after a point, you're like, what's more? What's there? I know it. Bhaktivinoda Thakura says that Shraddha or faith is the only adhikar. It's the only qualification that is required for a Vaidhi Bhakta. If we don't have Shraddha, then we cannot practice Vaidhi Bhakti, right? Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, it's not pushed by fear or anything like that. Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, for us to perform that, faith is very, very important. Hope you all understood this point, how faith is important and how Shastric study can increase the faith of a devotee. This is the eighth goal. And now coming to the ninth goal, to give devotees a philosophical view of life, an ability to see through the eyes of the scriptures. As I told you, ability to see through the eyes of the scriptures is what? It is Nitityasanam, dear devotees. This is the third stage that we spoke about. When our heart is transformed, then what happens? We are able to look at the world with a different set of eyes, completely different set of eyes. It is the skill that can be learned through the systematic study of Shastras. 10th one, for the sake of self-purification. Again, it's easy to say, but hard to do. If we study scriptures in its to the extent that we have talked about, what happens is purification of heart happens, right? And if we take these steps that I told you and follow it through sincerely, then we can observe that we are observing sadhana bhakti every day, and we are looking into the Srila Prabhupada's book in a very in-depth manner. And what happens as a result is purification of heart. Self-purification happens. The 11th point, dear devotees, is to give devotees the necessary training and qualification for practical, individual, dedicated service. Again, It is essentially that we are helping people preach if they are preachers, right? Helping people distribute books if they are book distributors. If they are preachers, then we give it that information through Shastric study. If they are book distributors, for that also we need to have the knowledge. So in this way, Shastric study is helpful in a variety of ways. Then the 12th goal is to strengthen the desire and the ability to successfully preach and teach and put into practice the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, as Mataji said, we have to share it, and you will feel like sharing it. When we are overwhelmed with Krishna consciousness, you definitely want to share this information that Krishna has told to the world. Yes, I want to give this information to the world, right? The 13th goal is help devotees in understanding the mission and spirit of Srila Prabhupada to consolidate the understanding of the society and its members. So it is very important point because we often see people in Krishna consciousness and they don't understand what Srila Prabhupada wants from us. The goals we set for ourselves, how to achieve those goals, how that goal actually leads the highest form of goal that Srila Prabhupada's that Srila Prabhupada's vision is talking about. We have to understand everything in relevance because the highest goal is Krishna Prem. If we don't understand that, then we'll be easily be confused. Yeah, look at this, look at that. Oh, this is the goal, that is the goal. Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi is needed. If we have, for that, we need to evaluate Srila Prabhupada's mission, his spirit, his mood. And we need to understand to what extent he has done. And because of that, how much gratitude we have. Because he has changed our lives, transformed our hearts, isn't it? So to help devotees in understanding Srila Prabhupada's movement, we need to have Shastric study. So I think I will stop here, at least leave for room for one or two questions, because I think I covered most of it. Thank you, dear devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhye evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kaura Bhakta Vrind ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. I know it is not a usual one, and thank you for going through these goals of the ISKCON teaching that they've set for us and understanding. And I really liked this sterile reader and the superficial critic. So, I'm guilty of that as well, of sometimes just reading it and not even comprehending what I'm reading. It's very easy to do that, and we have to train our mind now to do the manana. Otherwise, that is the block, and I can see that now. Mataji, you said when you are a sterile reader, you become detached. So what is this detachment? Is it detachment towards the world or detachment to the Shastras? Or I didn't understand what this detachment was.
Yes. So what happens is, say for example, we read something, okay, and we are abstained to do something, and that's what this particular topic all talked about. And we start following the rules, so without paying any attention to what is the ultimate goal. We start following the rules, and as a result of it, we become so hard-hearted and detached. Meaning, we become so after these rules and regulations that we forget the ultimate goal, which ultimately our heart has to be softened. At any point when we are following the rules, if we are not compassionate to people, if we are becoming hard, then that is not we are not on the right track to bhakti. Bhakti has to soften the heart, and for that you have to understand what exactly is the mood of the acharyas. What exactly are they trying to tell about this? It's not like, some sentence says you all have to go and stay in the Dham and we have to become Dhamvasis. It cannot be taken literal, right? This cannot be taken literal. And what happens is big detachment will come. Oh, I should be averse from my family. I should leave my family, someday go to Vrindavan and settle there and become a Dhamvasi. This is not what Bhakti is teaching us. The mood of our acharyas is we have to have Krishna in the center. Krishna must be in the center of our family also. Everything, this relation has to be looked at with a view of Krishna in the center. And this way, what happens is we'll be compassionate because they are Vaishnava children, Vaishnava family we have, and we need to look at them as part and parcels of Krishna. And if at all, when we look at it with that understanding, with the mood that our acharyas are trying to tell, then we will not take things blindly. And this is what detachment or hard-hearted means. Detachment means just taking the sentence literally and then doing whatever the sentence says without quantum. That mananam was not done, because of which we came to this conclusion. Hope that helps much.
Yes, Mataji, that really helps. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? I know we have exhausted our time, but are there any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. I have a quick question, Mataji.
Sure.
So, with respect to the Mananam one, like we have to comprehend, and Arjunacharya, right? He tried remembering it, and he was even with one verse, he was deeply meditating on it.
Yeah.
But with our comprehension level is based upon our sadhana, right, Mataji? So how we have to take it, Mataji, while we are reading many advanced scriptures or something like that, sometimes we won't understand anything. So is it like, okay, let me read it now, and whenever time permits or whenever my sadhana increases, that time obviously the super soul will help me to understand or give that intelligence to understand. Should I be like that, or should
No,
I like, oh, I'm not understanding this sentence, so let me wait, let me ask someone, then I go further?
Yeah. So the question is very good, Mataji, very relevant. So before Mananam, what happens? We have to hear. If you don't understand one hearing, hear again, rehear. And then what you do, once you have heard multiple number of times, then you go and preach. Okay. Then you go and tell people what you have heard. Okay. After that, what happens? You start to remember. Then you are preaching, right? Things will come to your mind also. It just will happen sometimes spontaneously because you've spoken about that subject matter. It could be kids, it could be adults, it could be any set of group, or it could be a family members also, no problem. But when we talk about the subject matter, see, we've heard multiple times. Only after multiple times of hearing, we go and preach, right? Because for us to preach, we should be able to understand what we have read, what we have heard, isn't it? So this hearing, once you don't understand, re-hear. Once, another time, 3 times, 4 times, no problem. Till you get the point, then only you're eligible to preach. I mean, in the sense, you should not preach wrong things. So for that, we have to be careful of only giving the right knowledge to the audience. So we need to be careful what is the mood of our acharyas. For that, multiple hearing, if necessary, had to be heard. Then we have to preach. After that, as I told you, remembrance will happen. And once this remembrance starts happening, the mananam will follow. The mananam is the stage where we would comprehend. Again, we can just, for us at the level of, when I'm practically looking at it, when I at least go through what I have heard, at least think about how I can practically apply it in my life. If I just spend 5 minutes or so after multiple times of hearing and speaking about the subject matter, how I can improve, that is good enough, Mataji. How I can practically implement this one particular subject matter that is being taught. Today, we just spoke about these 3 things, right? Why can't I just follow one of these and do it perfectly? That is the goal. And we have to, this hearing has to be, I told you, right? This hearing can be, everybody are there in the call, but who concentrates the most is the person who focuses on the preacher with giving a lot of attention, mood of submissiveness. Oh, yes, I have to learn from the speaker. The speaker is representing Srila Prabhupada and his teachings. So I have to learn. And with this mood of submissiveness, when we hear from a speaker and when we do service to the speaker, we will be able to get what the speaker is trying to tell. That mood of submissiveness has to be there. It is not hearing, oh, I know everything. What is she going to tell? If that hearing is there, nothing will come. Pride, the downfall is there when pride is there. So this mood of submissiveness has to be there. I have to learn something that our acharyas are trying. The mood of sutta has to be always imbibed. even though he is speaking, but what he is telling, Sukato Goswami, you have to enter into my heart and I have to speak Srimad Bhagavatam through you. This is the mood. Humbleness and humility is the basis for Krishna consciousness. Anything for us to understand, we need humility, Mataji. And as I told you, with devotional maturity, some things take time. We will wait for that. Even though you clarified multiple number of times, still your doubt is not cleared, then time has to heal. Time has to clarify that doubt. No problem, we will wait. But try to clarify the doubts. Don't try to put it into your heart. Oh, this is a silly question, I should not ask. No, that if anathas have to go, the doubts have to be clear. This is important.
Thank you so
Hope
much.
this helps,
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, any more questions or comments? I'll hand over to Path Prabhuji. Prabhuji, are you able to end the session? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for your nice class, and this is a unique class. You are not on the track of the basically reading on the purport and translation. This is very informative and subject matter for us, everything. Like you are talking about the giving the importance of learning by Shravana, Kirtan and Smaran, like a comprehensive manan, like you memorize. The basic thing is that if you are reading so many things, if you will not realize and not implement in your life, daily life, then what is the value? It is also talking about the Shastras. No utpadyate yadim ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. If we not develop our attachment to the Krishna and detachment from the material things, then shrama eva hi kevalam. This is only for the only labor. There is no value at all. So if you are here and we know this is the topmost thing in the world, like you are telling the knowledge, what is the knowledge is important. Knowledge is power and everything is possessed by the knowledge. There is nothing behind it. So that in the Shastra also tells this knowledge is power and everything. So thank you very much for your nice class. It's very informative. And also you are talking about the ISKCON Minister of Education, the set of the goals for the students, like so many Gurukuls are here in India and also abroad. They are the basic principles, basic rules we're supposed to do that one. Like all the schools, they have some specific goals, some specific motto. Also, ISKCON have also same thing to train them in proper Vedic knowledge, and as he can understand why he is here and what is the main important of a person as a human being, what he's supposed to do and what is his duty for the society. It's very good, Mataji. You are giving so many combined so many topics in one in your lecture. We are so grateful to you for your lecture and so many more information we got from you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Parth Prabhuji. Always
Hare
very good to hear you and get your darshan also. Very nice,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Hare Krishna.
Thank
All
you,
glories
Mataji.
to Srila Prabhupada.
So all you are also instead of a busy schedule, you are giving the lecture. This is the great thing for us. You are devoted your time for the specific slot for us. That is, we are so grateful on behalf of ISKCON Eldoret. We are so grateful to you.
I'm your
Because,
humble
you know,
servant,
we are so
Prabhuji.
busy.
Anytime.
Everybody is so busy, but they are committed and you are giving the time, so that we are so grateful to you. There is no word to speak, or
no,
there is no expense
No,
for your
Prabhuji.
greatness.
No, please, Prabhuji, don't embarrass me. All glories to you and all Matajis and Prabhujis, the Kritika Mataji for engaging me in the service. So I'm really grateful, Prabhuji. I'm your servant always. Hare Krishna.
Now I request all the devotees, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for glorification of Hare Krishna, Radhika, Kasturi, Mataji. Please join. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vansha kalpa tarurvashta kripa sindhu jaya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Radhika, Kasturi, Mataji ki jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.